There comes a moment when the past stops being a place you can draw strength from and instead becomes the very cage that keeps you from moving forward. The weight of old friendships, broken dreams, and memories that once brought you comfort now holds you hostage. Nostalgia doesn't inspire, it imprisons. It keeps you loyal to identities you've outgrown, to versions of yourself that have no business surviving in your present. Machiavelli never spoke of healing in the way people romanticize it. He spoke of removal, burning, severing, replacing. If the past has softened you, it cannot be negotiated with. It must be erased without hesitation. Not gradually, not politely, but with violent precision. Rip out the roots that tether you. Sever the bonds. Let others call you cold, detached, ruthless. Let them mourn the version of you that existed for their comfort. You are not here to be familiar. You are here to become dangerous. This is not about peace. This is about war. War with the person you used to be. To win, you must learn to erase your history and rebuild without mercy. Most people are chained to their own memory. They say things like, "I miss how it used to be," or "I want to be who I once was." But that is the language of fools. There is no returning. The past is a graveyard, and instead of burying the dead, you've been dragging their corpses into your future. Friendships that serve no purpose, dreams that have expired, guilt that belongs to mistakes from years ago. Worse still, you've remained loyal to people who only cherished the weaker you, the agreeable, obedient, validation-seeking version. Machiavelli's principle is simple. To gain power, you must become unrecognizable. Betray your former self without remorse. Every time you cling to the past, you dull your edge. You exchange transformation for emotional comfort. But power demands sacrifice. This moment, right here, must be your turning point. No more reflection, only removal. You cannot rise while carrying corpses. Power doesn't start with adding new habits or surrounding yourself with new people. It begins with subtraction. Look at your contacts. Look at the voices that echo in your mind. Look at the routines you repeat without question. Then ask, if I removed this, would I move faster? Would I be sharper? Freer? That is your dead weight. Cut it. In war, a single weak soldier can halt the advance of an entire army. Ancient generals knew this, which is why discipline was ruthless. One moment of hesitation could cost the battle. The same is true in your life. Your habits are your soldiers, your mindset is your general, and your relationships are either allies or liabilities. If you remain surrounded by those who think like the self you are trying to escape, you are not evolving. You are orbiting failure. Familiarity is not loyalty. It is a trap. Conduct a cold audit. Who forces you to justify your ambition? Who guilts you for changing? Who constantly drags you back into the same conversations, the same habits, the same places? They may not hate you, but they slow you down. And in the pursuit of power, delay is death. Silence is your first weapon. Most people try to distance themselves gently, waiting for the right time to leave without hurt feelings. Machiavelli would mock that weakness. His approach was surgical. If someone no longer served a purpose, he did not wait. He did not explain. He removed. You must do the same. No announcements, no explanations, no parting words to help them understand. Cut. Block the number. Walk away mid-conversation. Miss the meeting on purpose. Disappear without warning. Your absence will speak louder than any explanation. Loyalty is noble only when it is mutual. When it becomes a one-way leash, it is a betrayal of yourself. Stop being the emotional caretaker. Many of you are trapped because you've made yourselves useful as a listener, a fixer, a crutch. You're not valued. You're used. They keep you around to feel better about their own stagnation. You are not their safe space. You are a threat to the mediocrity they've grown comfortable with. They prefer the version of you who says, "It's okay, you're doing your best." Power demands you say, "It's not enough. Rise or be left behind." When you stop tolerating emotional laziness, they will brand you as arrogant, cold, ruthless. Accept it. You are not here to be loved. You are here to be undeniable. Burn every bridge. People will tell you not to. Machiavelli would answer, only if you're weak enough to return. Leaving a bridge standing tempts you to retreat. It's the safety net that keeps you from evolving because you've left yourself an escape route. Destroy it. Make retreat impossible. Put yourself in a position where survival demands transformation. That is when you will discover the edge you've been hiding from yourself. Power is extracted from pressure. Burn the old city. Leave no map behind. Let them wonder where you went but never come back to explain. Cutting the dead weight is only the first step. The second, and far more dangerous, is eliminating sentiment. You can block people, leave places, but how do you cut the invisible threads still tied around your mind? Sentiment is emotional residue, the echo of nostalgia, guilt, and comfort. It clouds your judgment. It slows your strike. Machiavelli had no room for it. Cruelty, for him, wasn't about violence. It was about clarity. There can be no clarity while drowning in emotional attachment. Sentiment is a weapon others use against you. They want you to remember the good times because those memories weaken you. They make you hesitate. They convince you to stay, even when staying means betraying your ambition. Sentiment disguises itself as loyalty. You say, "We've been friends for years," or "They helped me once," so you keep them in your orbit. But power demands the opposite. Emotions are tools, not masters. Machiavelli saw them the way a blacksmith sees fire, useful when contained, deadly when uncontrolled. He never said you shouldn't feel. He said you shouldn't obey feelings. So when guilt creeps in, when nostalgia whispers, when memories fog your vision, ask, does this feeling serve my rise? If the answer is no, discard it like a broken weapon. Train yourself to view your past without emotional filters. Remove the warmth. Remove the softness. See it for what it is, a snapshot of who you were, not who you are becoming. Destroy the shrines. Look at your room, your devices, your archives, old photos, gifts, playlists, saved messages. These are relics from a dead kingdom. Erase them. You are not a curator of your emotional history. You are a conqueror, building a new empire. Why carry artifacts from a world you've burned? Why revisit conversations that once comforted your weakness? That's not healing, it's sabotage. You cannot fully evolve while keeping souvenirs from your former self. Guilt is sentiment's sharpest weapon. If you feel guilty for moving on, it means you've been conditioned to serve others before yourself. That shame you feel when you outgrow the pack is a leash held by those who profit from your stagnation. When you feel guilt for cutting someone off, ask, did they ever feel guilty for holding me back? If the answer is no, your guilt is misplaced. You don't owe anyone your potential, explanations, updates, or access to your evolution. They had their time. That version of you died, and with it, their claim on your life. Once the past is burned, the weight is cut, and sentiment buried. The real work begins, rebuilding, but not as the old you, not as the obedient one, not as the friend who softened blows or waited for permission. You rebuild like a ruler, cold, deliberate, absolute. Because once the ghosts are gone, the void must be filled. And if you don't take command, the world will rebuild you in its image. Weak, tame, apologetic. Machiavelli warned that a new ruler must immediately establish a new order, for people will endure present evils more easily than new benefits. Translation: if you don't impose your rules quickly and ruthlessly, others will drag you back into your cage. Reconstruction begins with precision, not emotion. This is not a time for wandering or self-discovery. This is not about finding yourself. It's about creating yourself. Build your identity like a fortress. Structure your days like a battle plan. Choose your circle as if selecting bodyguards. Eliminate distractions with the same speed you cut enemies. You're not healing, you're reprogramming. Emotion has no place here. You don't ask, "How do I feel?" You ask, "Does this serve my power?" If not, it dies. From here, you enforce new laws without mercy. The old you tolerated disrespect, laziness, and disorganization out of fear. Fear of confrontation, of loss, of being alone. That fear is dead. In your new empire, rules are not suggestions. If someone speaks without respect, they're gone. If a habit weakens your body or mind, it's eliminated. If an action drains your energy without return, it's erased. Standards so high they would terrify your former self. That's your new baseline. When others mock or question it, hold the line. Let them fall away. That's the point. A ruler doesn't beg for agreement, he imposes order. And when you change fast. Machiavelli said injuries should be inflicted all at once. Benefits, slowly. When rebuilding, act decisively. Transform your routines, priorities, boundaries, and environment all at once. Evolve violently, not politely. If you vanish for a month and return sharper, colder, untouchable, they won't have time to resist. Shock is your ally. Time becomes your weapon. In your old life, you gave it away freely. Now every second is guarded. Say no without explanation. Ignore the irrelevant. Walk away from anything that dilutes your focus. This is sovereignty, your calendar as a fortress. Finally, build a life that would terrify your old self. If the person you used to be could survive in your new reality, you haven't gone far enough. This is not balance. This is dominance. Create a structure so demanding that mediocrity cannot breathe within it. If they still recognize you, you have not yet become dangerous enough. If they still recognize you, you have not gone far enough. The new version of you should unsettle, even intimidate. People should hesitate before addressing you the way they once did, not because you've become cruel for cruelty's sake, but because your presence no longer offers the comfort it once did. The old you was predictable, accessible, easy to read. This new version is an enigma, untouchable, unreachable, unassailable. Machiavelli did not believe in slow, comfortable evolution. He believed in disruption, transformation so complete that even allies are forced to reassess their position. He wrote that a wise ruler must change with the times, not adjust gradually, but alter his conduct decisively, like a guillotine falling. Real change is never a gentle shift. It's a fracture, a break from what was. To become truly unrecognizable, you must erase every trace of the old self. If those from your past can still provoke you in the ways they used to, then all you've done is change the costume. You haven't changed the character. Transformation begins at the core: your tone of voice, your posture, your vocabulary, your standards for interaction. Everything must be rewritten. The old patterns, laughing at the same jokes, excusing casual disrespect, apologizing before you've done anything wrong, must be destroyed. That self is not on vacation. That self is dead. You must also abandon the seductive weakness of seeking closure. This is one of the most dangerous emotional habits to kill. You think you need to explain why you've disappeared, to send that one final message, to offer a mutual understanding. But power does not explain. It acts. Let them wonder. Let them write their own narrative. Your silence will speak volumes. The strongest move is to vanish without comment and return in a form that defies recognition. You owe them nothing. Not an explanation, not a farewell, not a bridge back into your life. And you must master emotional distance, because becoming unrecognizable is not about changing your image alone. It's about gaining absolute internal control. The old you was a slave to feelings, quick to anger, desperate to be understood, easily pulled into petty disputes. That emotional accessibility made you predictable, and predictability is weakness. Now you must learn the discipline of detachment. Do not flinch at disrespect. Do not answer every insult. Do not defend your name in public arenas. Your silence will create more weight than any speech. Mystery is a far greater weapon than explanation. When people cannot easily read your reactions, they hesitate, and hesitation is the space where you gain advantage. In your transformation, your environment must also evolve to repel those who no longer belong. If people from your past can still enter your life comfortably, then your pace is too slow and your standards too low. The spaces you inhabit, the routines you keep, the conversations you engage in, they must all carry a frequency that exposes complacency. The unworthy will naturally fall away, not because you push them, but because your new intensity reveals their lack of ambition. Let them call you difficult, intense, unapproachable. These are the words mediocrity uses to describe those it cannot control. You have severed ties. You have stripped away sentiment. You have rebuilt from the ground up with the precision of a ruler reclaiming a fallen city. You have become something they can no longer recognize. But there remains one final commandment. You must never return. Nothing threatens transformation more than the pull of familiar ground. The most dangerous moment is not in the burning of the past, but in the quiet longing that comes after. Many destroy their old lives only to glance back, hoping to see who misses them, who's talking about them, who might welcome them home. That is the trap. That hunger for acknowledgement is the weakness that unravels revolutions. Society will whisper to you, "Don't forget where you came from." But why? You already paid the price. You already endured the suffering. You carried the weight, and you survived. You do not owe your former self a monument, your old neighborhood a visit, or former friends an explanation for your success. If someone was absent during the rebuild, they do not get to sit in the finished palace. If they didn't bleed with you, they do not feast with you. Leave them behind without offering a return ticket. Grief will come, because grief is human. You will miss people who were never good for you. You will miss places that choked your potential. You will even miss the naive version of yourself who didn't yet know the cost of power. But grief that delays progress is no longer emotion. It is sabotage. Mourn quickly, privately, and move forward sharper, colder, clearer. You are not here to be emotionally correct. You are here to be untouchable. Do not check the rear-view mirror. Conquerors never look back because what lies behind them are only ghosts. Ghosts of people who miss the compliant version of you. Ghosts of conversations that should have ended years ago. Ghosts of comforts that kept you weak. The more you look, the more you invite doubt. You start to wonder if you were too harsh, if you should reconnect just to check in. That voice is not your conscience. That is the past, begging to be resurrected. And anything that must be resurrected is already dead. You do not negotiate with the dead. You leave them buried. You will be tested by the apology trap. As you rise, people will reappear, not to celebrate you, but to accuse you. You've changed. You think you're better than us. Success made you arrogant. This is a lure to pull you back into the emotional gravity of your old life. Do not take the bait. Machiavelli understood that when consolidating power, you must appear unmoved. Explaining or apologizing signals doubt. And doubt is the scent that draws predators. Stand silent. Let your evolution be the insult. Let your success close the conversation without a single word. The truth is, not everyone is meant to walk with you into the future. Not every friendship survives transformation. Not every love withstands the weight of your ambition. And that is not tragedy. It is design. They were the soil in which you were planted, but the tree does not owe its life to the dirt it leaves behind. Gratitude is not an invitation to return. Respect does not require reunion. You do not water dead plants. Let others drown themselves in nostalgia. Let them rewrite the past in their favor. You will not join them. You are building a future so far ahead that they wouldn't recognize the road even if they found it. The past is not a home. It is a battlefield you survived, and survival requires distance. You do not escape only to return with an explanation. You do not rebuild only to be understood. You do not become unrecognizable only to crave validation from those you've outgrown. The dead will always call your name. Let them shout into the silence. You are not here to be forgiven. You are here to be feared, respected, and observed from a distance. Burn the map. Erase the trail. Leave nothing but ash in your wake. This is how real power is built. By walking away without mercy, without explanation, without ever looking back. If the fire inside you has been lit, if you are done sacrificing your sharpness for the comfort of others, then disappear into the shadows where power sharpens itself in solitude. Machiavelli would have approved. And when you disappear into those shadows, you do so knowing that there is no return. Because the moment you step back into the light of your old world, you surrender the edge you fought so hard to earn. The people, the places, the habits, they will try to reclaim you, not out of malice, but out of instinct. They recognize the threat that your transformation represents. Your success exposes their stagnation. Your discipline shames their excuses. Your distance denies them the comfort of believing you're the same. They want the version of you they can predict, the one who fits into the story they've already written. But you've rewritten yourself entirely, and that old script no longer applies. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. Power is not maintained by nostalgia. It is preserved by the refusal to dilute yourself for the sake of familiarity. If they once knew how to reach you, that door must now be sealed. If they once knew how to trigger your emotions, those buttons must be dismantled. The stronger you grow, the more they will test the walls you've built, not because they care about you, but because they want to prove you haven't really changed. This is why the most dangerous temptation isn't the direct attack. It's the soft invitation to catch up, just talk, or remember the good times. These are not harmless gestures. They are attempts to reopen gates you burned to the ground. In these moments, you must remember the cost of your ascent. Every sacrifice, every burned bridge, every night you chose discipline over comfort. These are not things you endured just to hand your power back. Your absence has value. Your silence has weight. To speak, to return, to soften, is to devalue the currency you've been minting in the shadows. And that currency is fear, respect, and the undeniable truth that you have become something other than what they knew. You will notice that the ones who remain from your old world are not the loud ones calling your name. They are the quiet observers watching from the edges. They do not interrupt because they understand. They do not demand because they respect. These few may be allies, or they may simply be witnesses, but either way, their presence does not pull you backward. In a world where most will try to reclaim you, this quiet is a sign. Keep it. The life you have now built is not designed for the masses. It is not a place where everyone is welcome. It is a citadel with narrow gates, and those gates are locked to anyone who would slow the march forward. This is not cruelty. It is necessity. A ruler who lets everyone into the palace will soon find the throne stolen. Your throne is your time, your focus, your energy, your will. Every visitor must be tested against the cost of their presence. Understand this: the past will never stop calling. It will change its voice, its tone, its methods. Sometimes it will come as guilt, sometimes as longing, sometimes as opportunity disguised as familiarity. But the rule remains unchanged. Anything that requires you to step backward is an enemy to your future. Machiavelli would say the prince who hesitates to act decisively is already losing. And here, hesitation is not a pause. It is the beginning of the undoing. The longer you remain in your new form without bending, the more it becomes who you are. At first, you will need to remind yourself not to look back, not to explain, not to break the silence. But in time, you will no longer need the reminder. It will become instinct. The pull of the old world will weaken, not because it has stopped calling, but because its voice will no longer matter. You will hear it the way a king hears the noise outside castle walls, irrelevant, distant, incapable of breaching your defenses. Your task is not to be understood. It is not to prove to those you've left behind that you made the right choice. Your task is to live so far beyond the person they knew that their opinions lose all relevance. You are not competing with them. You are not even in the same arena. You are building an empire they will only ever hear rumors about, a life they could not survive even if you offered them the key. The true measure of transformation is not what you have gained, but what you can no longer tolerate. The conversations you refuse to have, the company you refuse to keep, the compromises you refuse to make, these are the walls of your new world, and once built, you guard them without apology. For the one who has walked away from the past, there is no more dangerous thought than, maybe just once. Once becomes twice. Twice becomes habit. Habit becomes the old life again. So you leave it all behind, not with a handshake, not with a farewell, but with the sound of a door closing that will never open again. You burn the map, not because you hate what was, but because you love what you are becoming too much to risk it. You make the journey irreversible. You carry only what strengthens you, and everything else is left in the ashes. There is no midway point, no safe return, only forward. And in that forward march, you will find the clarity that so many fear, the understanding that you need nothing from the past to validate the future. The people who once defined you are now irrelevant to your definition. The places that once contained you are now too small for your presence. The habits that once comforted you now feel like chains. You have outgrown the cage, and the bird that has learned to hunt in the wild does not fly back to sing in it. This is how power is forged, not through the smiles of the crowd or the approval of the old guard, but through the discipline to keep walking when every ghost, every memory, every sentiment is pulling you back. It is the cold, sharp refusal to turn your head, the steady march into territory uncharted, unwelcoming, and entirely yours to claim.